Genetic variation. Explore how genetic mutation and natural selection occur. Quick recall. Can you identify which of the following refers to chromosome, DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, or gene? Can you match the following? DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, gene, chromosome. It is the unit of heredity that dictates the traits and functions in an organism. It stores and transmits genetic information essential for an organism's growth, development, and reproduction. It is responsible for the replication and distribution of genetic materials during cell division. Answer. Gene. It determines the traits and functions of making proteins in the body. DNA. Deoxyribonucleic acid. It stores and transmits genetic information, genes, essential for an organism's growth, development and reproduction. Chromosome. It is responsible for the replication and distribution of genetic materials, DNA, during cell division. Learning outcomes. 1. Define the term genome. 2. Explain how genome is related to genes, DNA and chromosomes. 3. Differentiate genetic and environmental variation. 4. Explain genetic mutation. 5. Recognize the impacts on genetic variation to natural selection. What is a genome? Genome is the complete genetic material of an organism. This is composed of DNA, which carries the genetic information of the organisms, including both coding and non-coding sequences. Genome in organisms. Eukaryotes. The genetic material in eukaryotes can be found in the nucleus. Prokaryotes. Their genetic material can be found in the nucleoid. Several prokaryotes also have plasmids called circular DNA molecules. The human genome. The study of the human genome or genomics is important in helping us learn about genes that are linked to diseases, inherited disorders, and how they can be treated. Tracing ancestry through patterns in the genes. What is a genome? Notice that even though humans have several similar characteristics, we have differences, like the color of our eyes. The differences in our DNA are called variation. Variation. Variation is the differences in characteristics within a population of a species. Variation can be caused by the following. Genetic variation. This is the diversity in DNA between individuals or among a population. Environmental variation. This is when environmental factors directly affect a characteristic of an individual or population. Try this. Categorize the following characteristics on the Venn diagram. Answer. Genetic mutation. One way that genetic variation can occur is via genetic mutation. This is when a genetic code on a gene can either become damaged or the faulty gene is inherited. New phenotypes can rarely occur from genetic mutations, but when this happens, it can cause continuous changes in the species. Recall that phenotype refers to the physical characteristic of an organism, as influenced by the genome and environmental factors. Genetic mutation. An example of genetic mutation is the pigmentation on cows. The spots on the cow helps them deter flies. Natural selection. Natural selection is the mechanism by which organisms that are more suited to their environment survive and reproduce. Through natural selection, advantageous traits, such as spots on cows, are passed on to future generations, driving evolution. Natural selection. Another example is the white-peppered moth turning into a black moth. The Industrial Revolution. During the Industrial Revolution, factories produced large amounts of soot, which turned the bark of trees black. White-peppered moth. The peppered moths at that time were usually white with black speckles, but due to the change in their environment, they no longer had natural camouflage. Natural selection. At that time, peppered moths also had a naturally occurring genetic mutation, causing some of them to have black wings. Their color helped them better camouflage in blackened urban tree trunks, allowing them to survive and reproduce. Natural selection favored the dark moths, leading to a rapid increase in their proportion within the population. Think about it. How does not completing a prescribed course of antibiotics demonstrate the principles of natural selection and mutation in the development of antibiotic resistance in bacteria? Answer. Antibiotic resistance can arise when patients do not complete their prescribed course of antibiotics. For instance, if a patient takes antibiotics for only 3 out of 5 prescribed days, some bacteria may survive. These surviving bacteria can mutate, developing resistance to the antibiotic. Review and summary. Genome. Genome is the complete genetic material of an organism. Variation. Variation is the differences in characteristics within a population of a species. Variation can be caused by genetics and the environment. Genetic mutation. Genetic mutation is when a genetic code on a gene can either become damaged or the faulty gene is inherited. Natural selection. Natural selection is the mechanism by which organisms that are more suited to their environment survive and reproduce. Research about how Charles Darwin documented the evolution of the finch species and explain how variation and natural selection occurred.
Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more future educational videos.